Hi, this is 365801 and this is the best prose books that I read in 2023. Okay, so this is the final video of this series of my year in BL review, where I'll go through my different reads. I still have some other videos um, outlining my collection and purchases and things like that, so look forward to those videos too. This is the second part of the best books or my best reads of 2023. The first part was all about the manga. So if you'd like to go and check out that video, it should already be up on the channel. Go and have a wee look at all of the best manga, graphic novels and webcomics that I read in 2023. This particular video is all about the prose that I have, and I have some of the best things and a couple of probably honorable mentions that were very close to or were very good but not quite 5-star reads. And this isn't necessarily all of the 5-star reads, but it's probably the 5-star reads that are prose, because even though I had a really great reading year and I have an average of 3.9, which is pretty high and pretty good, it did take quite a while for my prose reading year to kind of warm up to some good reads. So kind of an odd thing to have such a great reading year, but in terms of the prose, there's not a huge number, but then when I started going through them, I found actually there's quite a few to talk about. So this is probably going to be just as long as all of the other videos that I've done. So yeah, let's talk about some of the honorable mentions. And the first one is actually Louisa Master's one. This is Asher, which I read, I think, in like whenever it was published, March or April. And then Micah, which I read probably September, October time. And I reread Asher just to get back in the mood. And I don't usually give Louisa Masters anything more than a 3.5, maybe a 3.75, but these two I gave 4 stars for, and I think that's because I've already read the Hidden Species series and I've already read the Here Be Dragon series, and so this series is very much like earned. I think Louisa Masters has earned her 4-star for these, because I went in thinking I was gonna have a good time, and I did. The Demons in Law series is about 3 cousins who are all demons and who they end up with. And it's a great time. I know what I'm getting into when I read a Louisa Masters now, because I put the work in, just as she has. And I have read her books, and kind of knowing that you're going to get anywhere between a 3 and a 4-star is just a nice thing to know about a book. Sometimes I will start and I'll DNF, or I'll get all the way to the end and be like, oh, well, that was pretty rubbish. That was maybe a 2, 2.5, maybe a 3. But knowing that you're going to have a pretty solid, enjoyable time, I'm going to laugh at the jokes, I'm going to be enamored with the characters, I'm going to be intrigued by the plot, and we're going to have a grand old time in this universe that she has created that I've read through. I know what I'm going to get, and I appreciate that from her. I've never given her more than a 4-star, and these are the ones that I gave the 4 stars for. So yeah, they're an honorable mention, as in I am looking forward to the 3rd book, Zachary, in the series, which is good. So this is going to come out in 2024, and yeah, Asher was the first one, and I did read it twice in the year, so I do feel like it was worth the 4-star that I gave it twice. So yeah. Asher is an honourable mention for the year, as is Louisa Masters. And we move on to another male romance author who I also generally give good ratings for, but who has on occasion in the past couple of years kind of felt a bit stale or a little bit repetitive. And I'm not saying that she's not, because there's definitely an element of repetitiveness. But I know what I'm getting when I go into a Lily Morton book. I know what I'm going to get. And maybe it's going to hit just right, Confetti Hearts was okay, but it wasn't perfect. I would say it's more like a 3, maybe 3.5. But French Fancy, which is the second of the Model Agency series, came out August 22nd. And it just hit. It hit right, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't give it a 5-star, but I would say it's more like a 4, 4.5. And that was really enjoyable. It follows the first Model Agency one, which wasn't a great one for me. It was okay. I enjoyed it enough. But this was Pip's story, and Pip had already been introduced. I also get her email every month, and so she does this model clinic with the models and Pip doing a podcast, and it's just them talking, and it's really funny and really enjoyable. So I've gotten to know Pip even more so through her monthly email than through turning up in other books. And so to know that this was Pip's story, and to already know and love him as a character, and for him to be the Twinkiest Twink in London, he is very much so. And it's got all the elements that I really enjoyed about a Lily Morton book, as well as having a character that I already loved, and also having a romantic interest that was worthy, and the story that they had was also, I think, worthy. There were certainly elements to it, like the third act breakup type thing that happens, you know what's coming. It's very formulaic, but that's something that I actually appreciate if I know I'm going to give the book at least a 4-star, and that's kind of what I was getting with French Fancy. It was at least a 4-star, I would say, maybe a wee bit more, just because I love Pip so much. So yeah, these are the 2 honourable mentions of male romance from authors that I've already read, and that I appreciate the fact that I can go into whatever new book that they come out with and enjoy it and have a good time, even if it's not a 5-star. Oh my god, this has rewired my brain, but it's definitely like, this is great, I really enjoyed myself and I had a great time, thanks for that. So yeah, these are the honourable mentions. On to some fantastic great ones that did rewire my brain, and it's one I've mentioned already in a couple of these videos, and it's one I will mention again and again and again for the rest of time, even though I've only read it through once, and I definitely want to do a reread, and that is In Other Lands by Sarah Rees Brennan. I did not see this coming. It came out of nowhere. It's just so good. Elliot is just one of the most wonderful little bisexual kings. And he's such a little dinky boy, and he ends up growing up really tall. And it just follows him as he goes into the Borderlands, when he goes over to other lands, and he becomes, he's always very smart. He has obviously got some maybe neurodivergency, and I appreciate where we are when we're in his head, when we are looking at the world through his eyes. We see it as he sees it, but yet we totally understand, or I did anyway, understand where he's coming from. I empathized with him so much in this, and I laughed and I cried when I was supposed to, and it was wonderful. And the 3 of them together are just so funny and so wonderful. It's about friendship, it's about family, it's about love, it's about heartbreak. It was just everything. I loved it so much, and I was so grateful to Vinny to recommend that this is one of my 12 and 12, and it was end of January. It was just what I needed, because I was like, oh my god, I'm just having terrible luck with a lot of these reads, and I'm not getting anything that's really hitting, and the new stuff isn't hitting, and I just end up doing rereads, and I don't want to do that. I felt really bad, and this just kind of hit me. And this is end of January, absolute 100% best book of the year so far kind of thing. And I was really lucky, because just when I was reading it, it turned out that Sarah Rees Brennan had written a little 2-part short of In Other Lands, and this was like In Other Lands was published in 2017, and this is 2023, so it was 6 years after, and it just so happened to be the month that I was reading it. and I'd never heard of it before. And she's like, "Oh, hey, here's a little extra," and so I got to read this as well. And it didn't quite hit because it was like, oh, I kind of wanted more of the, wanted more of the love, but I still enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed it. It was really good. And if she wanted to do some more of these little extras, yes, and let's please and thank you, very much so. But yeah, the book itself is just absolutely heartbreaking. I loved it so much, and I really, really want to do a reread. It's so good, so good. And it took such a long time for me to come across something else that hit the same way. And it wasn't until May that I read the Game Changers series. And the first book was okay, but then the second book, yeah, guys, I am a basic bitch when it comes to like the top male romance that everyone loves. I love him as an epic. I loved Wolf Song. Loved it. It's great. I was certainly feeling some feels when it came to All for the Game series as well. But the Game Changer series is another big one that everyone talks about. Shane and Ilya and their story. And this is book 2 in the Game Changer series. And it is everyone's favourite. And it was everyone's favourite until she decided to get to book 6, I think it is, and decide to write the second part of their story, which is the long game, and just have the sequel come out in 2022. And of course, I don't have to wait for it. And I feel really bad for everyone who had to wait. I'm so sorry you had to wait. Once again, I just came in and was like, okay, I'm just going to read everything. I don't need to wait for the next book. Which is, yeah, I don't mind waiting. It's the anticipation is fine. But to have it right there, and I did try and get a physical copy of the long game. Unfortunately, they were all out. But I do need to pick up a physical because I really want to have the two of them next to each other. Because Shane and Ilya, oh, chef's kiss. That scene in the trophy room, oh, loved it. And the heartbreak of Ilya and oh, mental health rep, oh, so good. The airplane scene, if you know, you know, guys, and if you don't, get on it. It's amazing. And it wasn't until May that I was like, okay, here's a contender for best book of the year that's going head to head against In Other Lands for sure. Because for 5 months, it was just like, I read one good book. That's what it felt like. Like, manga is a separate beast. But when it comes to prose, it was like, this is good, this is good, this is good, but not great, not amazing, like, not sing from the rooftops. And this came along as well, and I was like, oh, thank God. There's some good books still out there, yes. And yeah, I kind of felt like I was part of the club, part of the gang, and I was with everyone else going, yeah, Shane and Ilya, love them so much. And I still do. I sobbed within other lands, and I sobbed with the long game. I absolutely, wrecked, broken so so much. And it's so good. So yeah, this is I'm not too sure which one out of the two that I would say is my favorite. I don't know. I don't make me choose. But yeah, such a good series. I would check it out. Then on to some Yen Press light novels that I was really lucky to get hold of. I did give this 5 stars. This is Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture, Volume 1, Folklore Studies. This is in no way the same 5-star as The Long Game or Heated Rivalry. Like, this is a different kind. And you could probably put this into the honorable mentions, but I did give it a 5-star. This is about Fukamachi, who is able to tell when someone is lying, and that has impacted his life quite a lot. And he ends up joining a course at his university when he's a first year, and it's all about folklore studies, and the teacher or the professor is Akira Takatsuki, and he ends up working alongside him, getting a little part-time job, helping him in his studies as he goes around trying to detect if something that is happening is folklore based or if it is actually something to do with human intervention or interactions or something like that. And it is really lovely. I did get a chance to read the manga version, but I preferred the light novel. And I don't know if that's because I read the light novel before I read the manga, but I kind of just enjoyed being able to be in this, once again, that kind of everyday, but maybe there's an element of the supernatural, because it's not like, how else is it that he can detect lies just from when hearing it, the sound of the person's voice changes. So yeah, there was definitely that element that I really enjoy, which is everything seems normal except there's one little thing that's a little bit supernatural. And Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture, Volume 2, I would like to get a copy of. I'd like to get a copy of physically of them both, but yeah, this was a very good one, and it made me want to check out the manga as well and collect that too. So yeah, definitely Mikage Sawamura. It was a very, very good book. And on to the next one that I also got a copy of, and this is You Can Have My Back, Volume 1. There's a Volume 2. It has come out. And I don't have a copy, and I need a copy. I'm really surprised actually in terms of the average rating. This has a 4.36. I think this is because people going into this know what they're going to get and they're choosing to read it, whereas You Can Have My Back just has fantasy, romance, and I don't think a lot of people necessarily knew what they would be getting, and so it has only a 3.41 average, and I'm sitting there kind of going, this is a 5-star read for me. This is a 5-star read. I love this. This had like, when I tell you, I tried to read so many fantasies this year that just did not hit, and especially a couple of NetGalley ones. If you go and check out my DNF video, two of the biggest DNFs, the ones that I read substantial amounts of before I have DNF'd them, like, they're so big disappointments because I wanted to read a great fantasy this year, and those ones didn't hit. But this one, oh my god, did it hit! Oh my god, it was just so good. If you like Captive Prince trilogy, then I would 100% recommend that you read You Can Have My Back. I do not know what happens in Volume 2, and if I get a Volume 2, I need to reread Volume 1, and I'm just going to do it back to back. I'm just going to read them as a big oneer, because it was just, it's a super long one actually, or at least it feels like it is. Yeah, 401 pages. That's pretty long for most of the things that I read, because I don't usually read more than 400 pages in a sin, but this was so fast and so easy. So what's it about? Oh, I don't know if I can explain it. So there's a bit of, oh my, so how did I describe it? It's like Captive Prince with a bit of like transmigration, reincarnation, like a beautiful boy aesthetic, like protector, damsel in distress, just you know, political intrigue, royalty, evil machinations. Oh, just everything about it was great. It was great. It was great. Loved it. Loved it. Yeah, this is one that I definitely want to get the second volume of and have a good read of. And I absolutely love the artwork on the front cover. It's stunning. Really beautiful. And not a lot of people read it. And all of the people who did, not everyone enjoyed it. Which is unfortunate because I really liked it. But if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But for me, out of the like high fantasy that I read, this was absolutely the best thing. Absolutely. I don't really count In Other Lands because he comes from the real world and goes into a fantasy. So yeah, but this is all set in fantasy. So this is like everything set in fantasy. This is definitely it. It didn't have any of the, oh, this is a bit like the real world and a little bit of, no, none of that. This is high fantasy, and I loved it. And it was the only like big high fantasy one that I actually did enjoy or finish, which is pretty bad. On to another Rachel Reid. I read this as part of my 5-star predictions. Instagram chooses my next read, which worked because I read it and gave it 5 stars. It was a really good hockey one, just like Rachel Reid's previous one, but not up to the same standard. So although I'm giving this a 5-star, this is not Game Changers, Heated Rivalry, the long game standard. It's more like one of the other ones in that series, which is still really, really good. I would still give them really good star ratings, but this is not quite the same. I really enjoyed the kind of Christmassy vibes, so it would have been a really good Christmassy one to read. So if you haven't, maybe pick it up next year, around Christmas time. Probably have a good time. And I really liked the representation of sexuality and desire, as well as mental health rep, as well as bereavement and grief. I thought it was really nice. It was really good. I enjoyed myself. Time to shine. Which was a shame because my second go at trying to do the Instagram chooses my 5-star prediction one fell by the wayside due to the next one that I picked. So yeah. Here we have another one that I feel like is kind of a weird one. It kind of came out of nowhere as well. One that I didn't expect to read or enjoy. And I don't know why I did. I think it was just because it was Amy Lane. And I've read a couple of Amy Lanes and kind of gone, and she's kind of prolific. And she's kind of written for a long, long time. I mean, this was first published in 2010. That was ages ago. So yeah, Amy Lane is kind of an old school male romance writer. And the things that I have read from her, I kind of enjoyed. So I was like, maybe I should try something, a third time's a charm type thing. But I didn't really talk about it with anyone, except for people around me. This is from Dreamspinner Press as well. Fairy tales. So it's kind of based on, I guess, Beauty and the Beast is kind of what I'm thinking. But it was brutal in its heartbreaking depiction of self-esteem and self-hatred and just general how to say this. It was, I sobbed. If something makes me cry, that's great. But if something makes me sob, like I wept and then I had to put the book down and then I had to go back to it and then I wept some more. Like this broke me a couple of times and I'm not joking, a couple of times. So the story revolves around a character called Knife, who is, and trigger warnings and content warnings, he is assaulted when he's younger, and he is assaulted because he has a disability and because he's not pretty or beautiful, as far as he is constantly told. He has mobility issues, he has chronic pain. Oh my god, the chronic pain aspect was just heartbreaking to read about. He has deformities, he has disabilities, he is belittled and berated, and he is abused by the society in which he lives, except from his mother and his sister, who love him and care for him and want him to do well. And he learns a trade, even if he is abused whilst doing it, and can carve things beautifully. Hence the reason why he wants to be called Knife instead of how his name is usually pronounced, which is very similar. And he ends up getting kind of coerced into being the companion of a beast man and going to live on his island, which has been cursed. This man is a normal man, but he's been cursed to live his life as a beast, like a lion. And all of the people who live on the island are also cursed to live their lives like animals. And they're slowly losing their humanity. And if he can live a year with him, due to some prophecy, the curse can be lifted. And when I say I sobbed, I really mean it. I sobbed. I sobbed a couple of times, and it's really like, please read this. This is a really, really beautiful one. Ugh, the moment when I don't want to give anything away, but there's a moment in it when there's the truth of something comes out, and then you find out the truth of something else, and it just killed me. It killed me so much. How much a love and affection that there must have been in a point in time in the story when you're unaware of something. It's a hard, I can't give too much away, but oh, the twists, and it did come out of nowhere. And I was just thinking, Amy Lane, fantastic, well done. Really well done. In 2010, this would have blown me away. Ah, so good. And this is the same person who did something that I was like, oh, that was really fun and I really enjoyed it. And that was what? Like that weird pentagrams and puppy dog tales, the weird series, but I really enjoyed it and it stuck with me. And the thing is, this has stuck with me too. It's really incredibly memorable, and I don't want to give anything away, but it's so good. So yeah, go and read Truth in the Dark. Wow. And on to another one, which is also just like, oh my god, so good. So this is when my reading year really improved. It really ramped up. I was like, yes, finally, I'm getting some 5 stars. It took a long time. This is A Power Unbound, and the final one in the Last Binding trilogy. I read A Marvelous Light, and I loved it. Then I read the next one, which was the one I didn't love as much, A Restless Truth. And then we have A Power Unbound. Is it a surprise that I loved A Marvelous Light, which is a Killian, that I thought A Restless Truth was okay? I don't know why it's not rated. I have read it. I've rated it. Maybe this is like a second. It's probably because I did a review on it. It hasn't actually properly gone on through. But yeah, I think I gave this A Restless Truth 4 stars. A Power Unbound is another 5-star read. I absolutely loved it. It's great. It's so good. But you do really need to read the 2 before to fully understand it. Red, White and Royal Blue meets Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I'm not sure about that. I don't like the idea of things being compared to Red, White and Royal Blue, just because it's a Killian or male romance. Maybe because I don't rate that one very highly. A Power Unbound is, in terms of the writing, like a class act. Very high level of English. Beautiful lyrical writing, wonderful. The characters as well, just, I fell in love with Hawthorne all over again, because I really liked him in Marvelous Light, and I liked him in A Restless Truth. Like, I was like, he's an interesting character. Are we going to get more of him? And we did, which is great. But we also got Alan Ross, and I love Alan Ross. Eat the Rich. He is very much Eat the Rich. There was so much great stuff in this. It was very much like, if you do enjoy KJ Charles, you will enjoy this. This is literally like, oh, you like her? Then you should read her. It's very much like a comparable one. And I felt like, even in some of the aspects where I feel like KJ Charles is sometimes not quite as good, or has fallen short in some of her earlier works, I feel like because this is Freya Marsk's debut trilogy, there's also an element of that in this one as well. So even though I'm giving it 5 stars, there's a bit of I don't know, something about the way that the conclusions are in all 3 of the books. They kind of feel a little bit like, yeah, that was one way to do it and probably the best way to do it, but it wasn't like that's not what the story was really about for me. It wasn't necessarily about this magical mystery. That's not why I was enjoying it. That's not why I'm giving it 5 stars. The reason I give it 5 stars is because Hawthorne, Jack and Alan are so deliciously brilliant together in their snarky snippy way that they talk to each other, the simmering tension and sexuality between them. There's just oozing desire and oh, and I just loved it. I loved it, loved it. And the absolute depth of feelings that they end up feeling for each other is just so wonderful. And I really, really enjoyed the little ending with all of the group together. It just was brilliant. So, so good. So, so good. And I do need to get a physical hardback copy because I have a lovely copy of both of the other ones. So I want to have the third one as well, so I can have the full set. So good. The writing is great. The story is engaging and thrilling. But for me, it's the characters and their love and their journey. And oh, the little twists and turns. But also, it was so good to have the whole gang. The whole gang. Everyone from the previous books is there, and you just get to see them all again. So it was just nice to see Robin and Edwin. It's just nice. Just such a good time. And it felt like you'd earned it as well. So yeah, thanks Bria Marsk. That was great. And I'm really looking forward to what she comes out with in 2024. Yeah, I need to get a physical copy though for my set. On to another one. This is a 5-star read. And when I tell you I did not see this one coming, oh my god. Like, it's Alexis Hall. And I've had some good Alexis Hall reads, and I've had some not so great Alexis Hall reads. So I wasn't sure where this was going to land. But I knew I wanted to read it because I read the boyfriend material last year around April, and I actually had a great time. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to have a good time. I had a great time. And then the husband material was coming out in the summer, and I read that, and I enjoyed it as well. And as much as I was like, well, it's a sequel, it's probably not going to be anywhere near as good, I think I liked it in terms of how it ended a little bit better, but because the ending of boyfriend material is terrible. I hated it. Like, the rest of the book is great, but the ending is pretty like lackluster. Whereas husband material was great, and then the ending was kind of like, huh, okay. Also a little lackluster. It felt like there was no payoff. But I end up getting a little snippet of 10 Things That Never Happened as a like NetGalley first half of the chapter or something, or it was like a posted on Instagram or something. So I managed to read like the first maybe half of the first chapter, and I was so into it. Like months before this book came out. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I can't wait for this. So I've been waiting for like a year for this book to come out, thinking it was going to be okay, probably going to enjoy it. Wow, so good. So I wanted to get a physical copy, but I didn't. I ended up getting I was just like putting it off because of all my other video plans had just gone to pieces because of the way the year had turned out. My September, October was just shot to pieces, absolutely. And this came out in October 17th, and I wanted to read it when it came out, but I didn't manage to get to it until like the end of November, which was a right pain. But it was perfect in the end because it was a Christmas book, and it literally starts on like the 1st of December and ends like Christmas Day. It's perfect. It's a perfect Christmas book. So perfect. And I read it at the end of November, just before December. Like, literally perfect timing for me to start feeling Christmassy. In fact, this was probably the most Christmas spirit I felt the whole time. Because afterwards I didn't really do anything except for reread this book. And when I tell you, I listened to the audiobook straight through. And as soon as it stopped, I pressed play again. And I listened to the audiobook straight through. And when it stopped, I pressed play again. I listened to it 3 times in a row over the end of November into December. And then at the end of December, after I'd had like family things and Christmas Day and all that kind of stuff just before New Year's, I was like, you know what I want to do? I'm going to press play again. So I technically read half of it, or more than half of it, probably 2/3, as the final thing that I read properly in 2023. So like 3 0.75 times I read this book. And it came out in October, and I read it at the end of November. I read so many times because it was wonderful. The audiobook is Will Watt does the audiobook version, and oh my god, he does an amazing job. If you like British things, which is pretty much like, boyfriend material, husband material, if you don't like them, you're not gonna like this. If you like Richard Curtis movies like Notting Hill or Love Actually, then you might like this. If you like things like Vicar of Dibley and stuff like that, then you might like this. If you like Gavin and Stacey, if you even know what Gavin and Stacey is, you will like this. So for a huge swathe of British people, this is the perfect kind of book. It's really, really good. But for other people, especially if you're not British, you might not get it because there's so many Britishisms. It's just a general atmosphere. Everything that they talk about, it's just so perfect, and it's so relevant to like British life and my family dynamics and things like that. Just how people are in the UK over Christmas. Everything just totally was so relatable. But the two characters were also so good. So we have Sam Becker, who's actually called Samwise. And then we have Jonathan fucking Forrest. Because you have to put the fucking in. Because he's his boss and he's such a dick. Oh, and the two of them have to kind of get along. Because Sam has an accident at work. And Jonathan fucking Forrest is afraid he'll get sued, and Sam is afraid he'll get fired. So they have to both kind of pretend that what happened didn't happen. And Sam has a concussion, and so he pretends that he's got amnesia, and he ends up having to live with Jonathan fucking Forrest, and then meet all of his family, and spend time with him, and navigate his work and living situation. And it's absolutely hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. And at the end, I once again sobbed. I sobbed. And the thing is, the 3 times in a row that I listened to it, I cried every single time. And then at the end of the year, I cried again. I don't think I can listen to this without crying at the end. So good. So good. Generally that doesn't happen, but yeah, this one was great. And the Will Watt did such an amazing job of the accents, with the Liverpudlian and the Sheffield accents and the Cockney accents and like Welsh accents, and just everyone's accents. They're so British, they're so unbelievably British. And if you're not into British accents, or it's hard to understand, you probably will need to listen and read at the same time. And I need to get a physical copy. And it's not even that expensive. It was like £7 or something on Amazon. And I just need to get one. I need to get it. I need to have it. It needs to happen. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be Alexis Hall's absolute best, everyone's favourite, because a lot of people said, oh, it's good, but it's not boyfriend material. I was like, yeah, no, it's better. It's better. Because that ending absolutely slapped. Because it's a proper ending. It's an absolutely proper ending, and I loved it. It was a proper conclusion. It had all the rise and fall that you would expect in a proper romance novel. It had the absolute devastation of the end, which I could see coming, but I still was not emotionally prepared for. And then the little extra at the end is just like, yeah, chef's kiss perfect. So yeah, Alexis Hall, this is the best thing you've written as far as I'm concerned. So good. And yeah, and I don't think it's for everyone. And that's the thing, like I can actually honestly say, hand on heart, that this is probably not for everyone, but this is 100% for me. And I need a physical copy. So good. And maybe actually the best thing I read this year. And that is saying something, considering I've just gushed about everything else that I've read. This was out of nowhere. I knew I was going to have a good time, or at least I hoped that I would, but I did not expect to have the absolute best time. So yeah, this was hard to beat, I think. On to one that's so anticipated. When I say so anticipated, and everyone's like, hey, hold on, what? Yeah, Forbidden Desires, the spin off. This is by Piper Scott and Virginia Kelly. When I tell you how often I reread the rest of the series, when I say these are my comfort reads, when I'm like so depressed and nothing's hitting, and I go, I know, I'll just read Bond. I'll stick the audiobook on and just listen to Harrison and Everard or Finch. Oh, so good. And just feel great about Michael Furiolo's voice and all the accents and stuff. So good. And I waited. I read Peregrine when it came out, just as it had come out, and so I've waited since Peregrine. So this is the book that I've waited for, and it was so big they had to split it into two. So, Raven Part 1 by Piper Scott and Virginia Kelly is 362 pages, and it was released on apparently October the 30th. I thought it was in November, but yeah, it was October the 30th, 2023. And then the second part, Part 2, is 328 pages and was released on November the 17th. So I thought they were both released in November, because that's when I saw the adverts. Maybe it was different in the US as it was in the UK. I don't know. But yeah, 4.52 and 4.52 is because I'm pretty sure so many people are just like either 4 or 5 stars. I don't think anyone will have gone into Raven who didn't love the rest of the series. Why would you put yourself through 2 very long books together if you didn't already love the series and want to love the series? And this is all about Bertram's story and his relationship with Soren, and it's just so good. The first book is kind of about how they meet and how they first start, and there is kind of like their love stories, and it really needed to have this 2 parts. You really needed to have them separated. One is just all about their life together and their history, and I cried and I laughed and I cried and I cried and I felt so much for them, and it was so wonderful, and I was there 100% all the way. It was totally consumed, and it was just a fantastic read. And then I had to read the second part, knowing that I was already heartbroken from what happened in part 1, and then part 2 is then what happens next in terms of how it connects to all the rest of the other books in the series. And there are the first 3 in the Forbidden series. So that's what? Clutch, Bond, and then Mate. And then we've got the spin-off series, which is Swallow, Magpie, Finch, Peregrine, and then the 2 Ravens, part 1 and part 2. An awful lot of these books. Not all of them are my favourite, but yeah. It's like Swallow. I'm not a big fan of Swallow. He's not my favourite. But part 2 needed to do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of connecting all of those stories to this one and making a through narrative that made sense. And I still think that there might have been a few little niggles of plot holes or things that were supposed to be written in that were left out, or things that were supposed to happen that didn't, or maybe it was just nods to it, because this was a big project, and I don't think Piper Scott and Virginia Kelly are ever going to be working together ever again. Let's just air some laundry here. I think I don't know who Piper Scott is. They used to be 3 people, and I think they're now just 1 person. And they have another pen name. And Virginia Kelly is Lynn Van Dorn and has obviously another pen name. And so I don't know how many people were working on this at any point in time, but the 2 of them, Piper Scott and Virginia Kelly, they have already said that they're not going to be writing together in this universe again, which is a shame because there's quite a few characters who people would like to see stories from, but Piper Scott is going to be writing apparently just on their own. And I've not read any Piper Scott other than this series. I've read almost every other Lynn Van Dorn, but nothing else from Piper Scott. And I don't know if I'm gonna have to go into that, especially if they write some more spin-offs from the Forbidden Desire series, because I really would love to see Julian's story. That would be good. Any other characters probably be quite good as well. But yeah, this was way too much for me to handle at the end of the year. I needed to just read it all the way through once and then just sit with it. And I'm going to have to sit with it for a few months. I will do a reread of this for sure. And I'm probably going to wait and see when Michael Friolo does the audiobooks, and then I will be purchasing the audiobooks for sure. Because I have audiobooks of all the other ones. And then I will probably do a reread just of the Raven book, because it is so long. But it was definitely an undertaking that I think the two authors felt was very difficult, and maybe they hadn't necessarily planned in advance to the degree that they might have needed to. I think it's kind of tricky to link all of those other books and stories into one thing, but I do think that they did a very good job of it. Hence the 5 stars. Also, was it ever going to get anything less than 5? Was it ever going to get anything less than 5? Unless, something ridiculous happened. But that first book, oh my god. Part 1, wow. Ugh. Loved it. Ugh. But yeah, there's definitely a lot happening in both these books. Yeah, so yeah, I will be doing a reread of Raven. But when Michael Friolo does the audiobook, so I can listen to all of the voices. He does Bertram as Sean Connery, and as a Scot, I'm like very appreciative, because Bertram is basically a spy, so he's basically 007, like the original. So obviously, like he's done his voice in other audiobooks as pretty much as Sean Connery, and I'm just like, yes, thank you. I will listen to a whole super long book audiobook with Sean Connery as one of the characters. Thank you. And the last one that I want to talk about, the last 5-star read that I did, was part of my Did I Read All the Male Male Romance to complete the Buzzword readathon for 2023, and I needed to read this, which was The Secret Lives of Country Gentlemen, because it had the word secret in it. It also had the word lives. So it was like 2 birds with 1 stone if I needed to. This is book 1 of the Doomsday books. This is by KJ Charles, obviously. It's being touted as Bridgerton meets Poldark. And I'd say that's pretty accurate, actually. That's a pretty accurate way of describing this one. This was published in March, and I knew I was going to read it. I was excited about it. I even picked up a physical and an ebook, and I just never actually got round to reading it. Because I needed a physical. I tried listening to the audiobook version to do that. And the audio is not good. I didn't like the little snippet that I heard. I'm sure there are people out there who are like, oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. But almost everyone else has been like, no, this is bad. They've not enjoyed it. So I feel fine about just reading it. And I already have a copy of book 2. And at the end of book 1, there's a little snippet of the first chapter of book 2. And I've already read it. And I'm like, oh, itching to read it. So definitely book 2 of the Doomsday books series will be on my TBR for 2024. It's getting read. I own it. I'm doing it. A Nobleman's Guide to Seducing a Scoundrel. Ugh. It's going to be great. And it is connected to the first book by one of the characters who was introduced and is a bit older now. This is about Sir Gareth Inglis, who inherits a baronetcy in Romney Marsh, where lots of smugglers frequent, and he gets kind of mixed up in a bit of smuggling and maybe treasonous acts even though he himself is not actually doing anything. So yes, there's lots of family dynamics, which is also quite good. And KJ Charles, wonderful writing. So in the way that I liked Freya Marks, I would still class KJ Charles as above in terms of my preference, just because I know exactly what I'm going to get with KJ Charles. The best quality of English language writing with amazing historical accuracy and a wonderful cast of queer and unqueer characters. Like the queer characters feel historically accurate in a way in KJ Charles. I know that she will put the work in to ensure that she is being as accurate as possible in terms of the representation, as well as just being wonderful stories with adventure and like maybe murder and intrigue and just love, just absolute beautiful love stories. So yeah, the two of them together, London and Kent, oh, so good. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts, go and watch that other video as well. So yeah, this is another 5-star read, and I read that at the end of the year as well. So I ended up starting January with a 5-star, and then it wasn't until May that I got another 5-star, and then it wasn't again until August that I got another 5-star, or maybe it was like June or something, and then I think Time to Shine, and then yeah, the end of the year had the like quick succession of 5-stars, but overall there's not a huge number of 5-star reads for the year, but the ones that I did get were so good, and I really enjoyed them. So yeah, I don't know which one I would pick as my favorite. I think it's too hard, but in terms of like rereading ability, I would reread pretty much all of these again, and quite happily. They were really good. But in terms of how many I reread during the year, it would be 10 Things That Never Happened. So this might end up being the choice for the best thing that I read, just because I think this is part of the new, this is definitely on my I'm not feeling great, I need something that's going to make me feel better list. So along with any of the Forbidden Desire series on audiobook, or Royally Screwed is another one, an audiobook that I enjoy. So yeah, there's certain audiobooks that I'm like, I feel down, I need to have my comfort reads. And I think 10 Things That Never Happened is now part of that group of books that are just forever 6-star, maybe 6-star reads. The ones that just are there and comfort me in some way. And yeah, I think that might actually end up being my favorite, even though the rest of the 5-star reads are really good. It's hard to put them into I don't know. That's all the ones that I read this year that are like really good 5-star. So yeah, you can let me know. Have you read any of these? I really like to know what you think of them. Did you read them and hate them? You can let me know. It's fine. I know that there's obviously a lot of people who did not enjoy this one. I might go through, have fun little video ideas to go through my 5-star reads and pick out the 1-star reads, the 1-star reviews, I should say, of my 5-star reads. That would be a fun video. Maybe I'll do that in February or March when I'm a little bit less invested in my year in BL review. So yeah, that might be something to do later on in the year. Look back on my 2023 reads and see what people said when they hated them. So yeah, I'd love to know what your favorite read of 2023 was, or favorites, because I think it's unfair of anyone to say that you need to have one. Because I find it very difficult when people say, what's your top 10 or what's your favorite this? And I'm like, I don't know, like everything. I love everything. I have far too many things that I love to pit one against the other. But yeah, so thanks for watching to the end of this very long video. I can see that it's already over 50 minutes long. and my voice is starting to go. But this is the last one of these videos of the DNFs, disappointing, surprising, worst, and best. But yeah, we've got a whole load of other review videos to come as well to do with my collections. So look forward to them. If you are not and you'd like to be, hit the subscribe button and you can get notified when the next video goes up. I haven't done that in a while. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, comment, all of those things if you'd like. So yeah, thanks for watching to the end. Take care, guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.